It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very impressed with Romania. It strikes me as a very vibrant country. I can tell that things are moving. I see all kinds of new businesses, a real forward-looking people. It's a pleasure to be here with Bilancia. I'm very impressed with their company. I see new markets here and a lot of new exciting ideas. I'm here to talk about a new type of business for this country, from what I've seen and from what I've heard. To give you a little background, I am American. I grew up in the United States. In the early 90s, I spent a brief period of time in Italy as a student. Aside from being struck by the beauty of Italy and Europe and the good food, I was also struck by the absence of many service sector businesses. So I began to ask myself why many of the businesses that I had seen as a child growing up in the United States, I asked myself why they didn't exist in Italy, in Europe as a whole. I personally, as a student, needed several services, one of which was laundry. I needed a place to do my laundry. And like me, there were many students that had the same need. So at the end of the week, when I needed to wash my clothes, I would think, someone could come, open up self-service laundries and make a fortune. And I would say this about once a week. And I'm a little hard-headed, so it took me a few months, and I finally thought, I could do this. I had no business experience, but I was convinced that this would work. All of the Italians that I knew were convinced that it would not work. They said, with our mentality, we will never come and wash in a public place. They said the Italian mother does all of the laundry, and they will never come and wash their clothes in the same machine that others have used. But I knew that many of the university students had come from far away. And so I knew that their mother could not always do the laundry. So I did a calculation. I said, if there are 20,000 students in this city, if only a small percentage come, then I will be able to cover my costs and possibly make money. Okay, I had no startup capital. Fortunately, I was able to find 2 partners in Italy that believed somewhat in the idea, or at least were willing to try. And so we decided to open a first store in a university area. Fortunately, the business started to work quickly. Surprisingly, not only with students, but with lots of different types of people. This was very surprising to me, also because I didn't really understand the local market very well. As the different customers arrived, I would speak to them, and I learned many, many things about the local market. We initially opened with mainly small washers of this size, and these were, yes, in effect, used by the students for their personal loads. What surprised me is that people, families, mothers, old people, would come and line up to use the few large machines. And I learned that, contrary to the United States, the home washing machines in Italy and in Europe were very, very small. And I also found that it was the local tradition to wash your blankets twice a year, after the winter and before the next winter. So we had, again, people lining up with blankets, down comforters, curtains, carpets, all of those large, voluminous things that they could not wash at home. The people were very happy because they could save money and time. They could come here, they could wash. You have a very short wash cycle, which is another very important factor to consider. Why is it a short cycle? It's a short cycle because with a large semi-industrial self-service laundry, we preheat the water. A home cycle takes a long time, partially because the heating takes so long. When you have the cold water coming into the machine, it takes generally about a minute to raise it by 3 degrees. Okay, this creates a very long wash cycle and a very expensive cost. Okay, so people were very happy for these reasons, I repeat. They were able to save money, they were able to save time, and they were able to save money on their home utility bills. And they had the advantage of doing it themselves, therefore they were sure and they knew that it was being washed. They could control what type of detergent, and they knew it was getting washed. Is that contrary to the United States, where 96% of the population owns a washer and a dryer, I learned that in Italy, nobody had dryers. The few dryers that exist were very small, very inefficient with very long cycles, and consumed a lot of electricity. Especially in certain times of the year, winter and in the rainy months, the people would come and literally line up to use the tumblers. Even people that were trying to save money, they would wash at home, they would use their small washer at home, and they would come with their wet laundry and dry it in these large tumblers that have a much, much larger drum than a washing machine drum. People couldn't believe that literally in 25 minutes they could dry 2 home loads of laundry. Not only dry, but have wonderful results in the fabric. They realized that especially in the winter months, they didn't have to hang dry their clothes in their home. We found that aside from single people, we had many families coming. So you had increased family income, but decreased time. Initially, people would come to use the large washers to wash things they could not wash at home, and they would come to dry. So it took a little bit of time, but gradually, many people realized that they could wash, even using the smaller washers, and dry several loads, 3-4 loads of laundry in 1 hour. The mother understood that she could come and wash a week's worth of laundry for her family, especially with children playing sports and you have lots of accumulated things to wash and dry. Could come, use 2 or 3 washers in a half-hour wash, and then in a half-hour completely dry the whole load. So I thought, this is very surprising. I went from thinking that I could open these laundries in the university cities around the country to believing that I could open them in all of the different areas in residential neighborhoods where there weren't any students. Over time, I was very surprised to realize that actually the areas, the non-student areas, made more money than the student areas. Whereas students would sometimes come together, they would use 1 washer for 2 students and they would share the same dryer. I didn't have this with families. The families would use their own washers and their own tumblers. A higher percentage of use of the large washers and more dry cycles. So we started opening again, I repeat, in all of the different areas and all the different residential central areas, and even in small towns. This is something else that surprised me. We started opening in smaller communities, towns with as few as 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. Presently, I've opened approximately 260 stores in Italy, and recently we've begun opening them in Spain, and we're up to about 30 stores. Started 17 years ago, and in the early years we would open 2, 3, up to no more than 5 new stores a year. Whereas the last few years we've opened an average of 30 to 40 new stores every year. The break-even, depending on the area, can be anywhere from 1 month until, I would say, a maximum of 1 year. Generally speaking, just a matter of a few months. One of the secrets to this business is the fact that it has very low fixed and variable costs. Basically, your fixed costs are your rent, some insurance, and the cost of 1 employee if you would like to have an employee. Your other costs are variable. They consist of your utilities, water, electricity, and gas if you use gas. Okay, your variable costs come up to about 10% of your sale price. Okay, for instance, if in Italy the cost to do a wash for the end user is €3.50, the utility cost is 10% of that. And in order to keep the same percentage, we have seen that a wash should cost €1.40 and a dry should cost €1.20. Okay, again, these costs for the end users gives the owner of the business about a 10% cost to run the machines. It's one of the few businesses in the world that the customer does the labor on his own and is often happy to do it. This also leads to another very important concept, the fact that the stores are open every day of the year from morning until the evening. Again, these businesses require very little time, very little of the owner's time. Therefore, they can be a business that can be looked at as an investment for those that already have another business, or it can be looked at as the type of business that allows great space for expansion. We have studied the costs of utilities in Italy with the advantage of being able to do a week's worth of laundry in 1 hour. Over time, we also discovered other very important things. Again, it was important to put an adequate number of large washers, and especially in cold, damp areas, many tumblers. We initially started with your typical flyers, brochures. We also found that although it's a self-service business, it was very important, especially at the beginning, to have someone always there. So you had a lot of people obviously curious because it was something new. People walking down the street would notice something they'd never seen before. So we found that it was very important to have very enthusiastic people explaining how the washers worked, how the dryers worked, explaining that you had, again, later we figured this out, a disinfecting system, the fact that they could do many cycles in 1 hour. And in doing so, people understood that they could eliminate all of the wet clothes, the problem with washing their large blankets. They could wash and dry without having to hang dry out in the polluted air. We found that if we passed out the flyers in all the homes and on top of all the cars, we saw that initially it had very little return. But if we were very consistent and very persistent, we passed them out on an average of every 4 days, people would finally become curious and at least come and take a look. I mean, you can already see that this is a large machine, and this is one of the smaller large machines that exists. Okay, this is a 14-kilo machine, which is already quite a bit larger than the 8-kilo machine. However, as you can see in some of the pictures of the materials I've passed out, we often put in larger 18-kilo and even 27-kilo machines. Now, this brings up another very, very important issue. This is the kind of business that can start out small, and if you have adequate space, can grow in size. Okay, a customer that has a small amount of capital or doesn't entirely believe in the investment can start out with a few small washers, a large washer, and a couple of tumblers. Although after my experience, I would suggest opening a medium, large store. It is, to repeat, very feasible to start out with a smaller store, leaving space to add machines as you see an economic return. My experience is that in densely populated areas, like you find in Bucharest, where you have high-rise buildings, where you have a lot of people concentrated in a small area, you can often afford higher rent. Now, that is all. It's a good question as to whether it will work on a less trafficked road, and I will respond yes. Being that it is, in fact, a very useful service, once people understand the utility, and once you're able to communicate where you are, people will come even if it's not on the main road. Now, one of the reasons I chose these machines, I'm the distributor for Speed Queen in Italy and now Spain, is because they are very simple to use and they are very, very high quality, very robust machines. So basically in Italian you would describe these machines as a prova di imbecilli. Basically, even an idiot can figure out how to use them. So just to give you a small demonstration. show up. Okay, they could have their blanket or their coat or whatever. Put it in the washer. Close the door. Then, this is another important thing. You can use two different systems for detergent. Okay, you can put an automatic detergent dispenser in your store. As you see in the brochures, you can sell small packages, boxes, or bottles of detergent, bleach, softener, all the things necessary for a wash. Or you can put an automatic pump injection system. So basically, like your hygienic disinfecting system, the machine is hooked up to a detergent and softener pump. Therefore, the customer need only load the machine, insert money, press the temperature, and press start. Nothing more. Or, getting back to what I said before, they can bring their detergent from home, or they can buy it from the automatic product dispenser. We normally sell a package of detergent for about 80 cents. Now, we have a very high profit margin on that. Therefore, if a cycle costs $3.50, the customer, if they buy detergent from us, spends about 80 cents more. Whereas on an automatic pump system, we usually add about 50 cents to the vend price. Both of those costs basically give us a 100% markup. Okay, so if we put in 20 cents worth of detergent, we are charging the customer about 50 cents. Okay, I'll explain some of the advantages to both systems after I start the machine. So I've come here and I'm going to do my wash. Okay, I'll go. Okay, all I need to do now is select the temperature. And press start. Now the machine will do its cycle all on its own. I need do nothing more. Now this gives me, getting back to the different types of detergent. The system that I just used gives the advantage of leaving the choice to the customer. They can bring from home and use the type of detergent that they believe in. And if they like ours, they can buy ours. These machines have a total of 6 different programs. We as the store owners can make the programs. For example, we can have a hot cycle that lasts a long time. We could have a gentle cycle. Although I believe in making everything as simple as possible, these machines have the technology and capability of charging different prices per different cycle. Therefore, you have that flexibility. I also wanted to explain to you the different options available for paying that the customer can use to pay for the cycle, the wash or the dry. Okay, obviously I've just showed you the classic system that's existed in the United States for 50, 60 years. I insert money. I select the temperature and press start. It makes it much more difficult to offer discounts. Without the possibility of giving discounts and bonuses, it's harder to gain customer loyalty, especially when you have competitors in competition. Over the last 10 years, we have been moving towards automatic central pay systems, which I'll explain. Basically, instead of having a coin acceptor on every machine, we will install machines like this one here. Or a machine like this without a coin acceptor and with no coin box. Then we will build into the wall, often for security reasons, basically a very secure metal box built into a wall. In these cases, the customer goes to the payment system. So in addition to have the advantage of having all of the money go into one secure spot, you can sell discount electronic cards or electronic keys. Therefore, much like the telephones work, just to give you a little bit of personal history, for the first several years I was involved in this business, I did not believe in central pay systems. I was scared of two things. I was worried people would not understand how to use it, and I was worried if my system broke down, my whole store would be blocked. After about 8 years in the business, I finally decided to experiment with a first central pay system. And then I discovered the many advantages. I was able to collect more money up front. I had greater customer loyalty. And the thing that surprised me most was that people that already had money on the card or the key would spend more by doing more wash cycles and more dry cycles. This is basically psychologically, we had many thefts or people trying to steal. They would especially try to break into these boxes, or with the change machines where people would put in banknotes and they would get coins, they would try to break them open. So initially, what we used in some of the more dangerous areas were tokens. And this eliminated most of the vandalism on the individual washers because all they could steal were tokens that had very little value. However, it was also very, very important to make the change machine or token dispenser very, very, very secure. So we found that the best way to do it was either to build the machine inside the wall with access from behind, or to install large metal bars with big locks all around the machines. So anyway, we found this was particularly important in those stores without employees that were 100% self-service, which we often use in Italy and Spain, plain and simply because the employee costs are very, very high. Now, in a country like Romania, where the manpower is relatively economically priced, I would strongly suggest considering having an employee. The employee can explain how everything works, can keep the store very clean, and can do additional services like ironing or doing the wash for someone that doesn't have time. Now, especially when you own multiple stores, it's very advantageous to be able to control your income from a remote location. For instance, if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 stores around Bucharest, with a good central pay system, you can control on your personal computer by internet everything that is happening in that store. Getting away from this discussion, you can also put in cameras that work with the internet and see what's going on in all your stores. So you have a greater control of what's going on in the store, and you know what you're earning. Well, being the first obviously could be an advantage that you don't have any competition. However, after the initial start of the business, it's only an advantage if you have a growth strategy and you're ready to move very, very quickly. Because like any business, when you've been the guinea pig and other people see that it works, they want to do it too. So therefore, in order to maximize the business potential but also protect yourself, I strongly suggest that before opening your first store, you have a clear idea on where to open future stores. Now, a standard wash cycle that takes 30-35 minutes the machine remains closed and you cannot open the door. Now, that's for the washer, not the tumbler. The tumbler can be opened at any moment. Therefore, in the meantime, we often put in televisions. So people either watch their television, do shopping, go buy bread, buy their groceries, buy shoes, do whatever they need to do while they're waiting the 30 to 35 minutes. However, if you have the possibility financially to put in what I call alternative income centers, do it as much as possible. Exactly, because the way I look at it is we have captured their time for 1 hour. We try to put in as many additional services and products as possible. Some excellent alternative income centers are simply coffee distributing machine. beverage and snack distributing machine. And where it's legal, internet kiosks, self-service internet points. Okay? And you can add to that, you can add all kinds of different distributors. You can sell, distributors that, aside from selling every type of laundry product imaginable, can also sell other personal hygiene products. Now, these are very good questions. We are always trying to find new things to go into our store that will make money. We open them up wherever there are people that can come by bus, train, car, are able to park, and where we can find economical rents. Now, these are all very good questions, and I like speaking to people like you that are entrepreneurs, not manual, laundry people with a laundry mindset. You're thinking as entrepreneurs, which is very important. So we have a store space that we want to make as much money in as possible. A store is generally open 15 to 16 hours a day, every day. Therefore, these machines, especially these stainless steel models, can last 20 years. Fortunately, for those that buy the machines, and unfortunately for those that sell the machines, a machine like this really is almost indestructible. You can do anything to it. It requires very, very little maintenance. This machine is built to do 10, 15 cycles every day of every week, of every month, of every year, for years and years and years. So the more ways you can find to use them, the better. If you can make deals with hair salons, small hotels, sports clubs that have lots of stuff, do it as much as you can, because there are always going to be hours during the day the machines are not being used. So again, you want to use these machines as much as possible, and you want to try, if you can, to put in as many extra income centers as possible. Over the years, it's been a relationship that's been going on for almost 18 years, and there have been some problems for sure, yes. One thing I can say is that the machines are very reliable, but so is Alliance. It's a very reliable company that you can count on for help. That said, with these standard models that have been being used for the last 20, 30 years, relatively speaking, there are very, very few major problems. Probably against the interests of those that sell the machines. They already figured out a long time ago how to give an optimal wash and an optimal dry. So in terms of quality of wash, quality of dry, you're going to have more or less the same quality, from my experience, with a machine that's 10 years old as opposed to the new models. With the proper combination of energy input, heat, and airflow circulation, these use scores and scores of cubic meters of air. They're circulating air continually. By the end of the cycle, believe it or not, ironing is reduced, I would say, up to 80-90%. Aside from button-down shirts and certain fabrics, 80 to 90% of what you wash does not require ironing. The tumbler needs to have a very large cylinder with lots of space and excellent airflow, and adequate space for the fabrics to open up, expand, and be uniformly dried in a uniform manner. It's also very important to consider that some things, especially towels, after the dry cycle, are exceedingly soft and pleasant to use afterwards. You don't have the traditional hang drying effect of stiffness and roughness. If you want to have success in this business, you have to put in the right number of large machines and large tumblers with short, economic, and efficient cycles. On a smaller store,
Smaller meaning how many square meters?
Smaller, about 30, 40 square meters. I will install a minimum of 2 and generally 3 smaller machines. And especially in cold, damp climates like Italy and like Romania, it's very important to have an adequate number of tumblers. This is an excellent model because you get 2 tumblers in the space of 1. The 14 kilo capacity tumbler is the perfect machine to dry a load that comes from an 8 kilo washer. Whereas the ideal machine, the optimal machine for drying large volume items that come from the large industrial washers are tumblers anywhere from 18 to 25 kilos. Thank God, about 2 years ago, Alliance finally started producing a large stack tumbler, a 20.4 kilo stack model. So to get back to that, I now, after many years, believe that you should have approximately the same number of tumblers as washers. In the cold, rainy periods of the year, the tumblers, the drying tumblers, are often used more than the washers. So if you want to give a good quality service, put in the right number of machines, you want to keep your investment low and not risk exceedingly, I would strongly recommend putting minimum 2, 3 8 kilo machines, 2 large washers, and at least 4 tumblers, which could be 2 stack tumblers for a total of 4 cylinders. Again, because the customer provides all of the labor, just plain and simply, I've done my wash. Okay, I washed my coat. Now, the beauty of these tumblers is they can be opened at any moment. Okay, so 5 minutes in, if I want to open. I plain and simply close the door and press start again. I can change the dry temperature at any moment. When I remove the different items from the tumbler, if I fold them quickly while they're still hot, they require little or no ironing at home. There is very little maintenance required on the owner's part. However, there are a few things that are very important. More than anything, the maintenance required permits the machines to use the lowest percentage of energy. For instance, the tumble dryers will dry well with or without dirty lint filters. However, if the filters are clean, the machine uses far less energy, gas or electricity. Therefore, the cleaning of the tumbler filters should be something that's done at least once a day by the person that cleans the store, the person that washes the machines, that mops the floor. It's not complicated at all. You have a large lint drawer that you open with a key, you pull out, and you can use a vacuum or your hands and you remove all the lint, at least once a day. Now, the washing machines require less maintenance. However, there are 2 or 3 very important things to do periodically. For hygienic reasons, but also for the good use of the machines, I recommend that the person that cleans the store cleans the soap dispenser every day, once a day, every day. Therefore, you don't have the accumulation of wash powder, detergent, which can actually block the entrance of the products down into the drum. I would say at least half of all problems that a store owner will encounter with a washing machine is related to the drain valve. Therefore, I suggest that the drain valve is opened up at least once a month. Things that are left in pockets such as telephone cards and often bra wires that come out of the bra during the wash cycle can block the normal operation of the drain valve, which can block the machine or create excessive water consumption because you have water continually running out the drain. Okay, this is something that takes approximately 5 to 10 minutes per machine once a month. Once again, all of this maintenance, daily or monthly, can be done by just about anybody. My strong advice, again, I'll be repetitive, look for a nice building spot that has plenty of light. Start out with 2 or 3, 1 to 2 large washers. and 3 to 4 tumblers. Okay, you can always leave yourself some space and the possibility of adding a few more machines in the future. Try to publicize the business as much as possible. Not necessarily spending a lot of money, but publicizing it continually, word of mouth, flyers, and enthusiasm, being there at the store and explaining to people. Okay, try to sign up as many small businesses as possible, hair salons. Okay, if you have the possibility financially to put in a good central pay system, better. If not, start with coin. It's a cheaper option, and at least you start your business. Make sure the stores are kept as clean as possible because people come to clean their clothes and they need to find a clean store, clean floor, clean machines, clean everything. Make sure the store is very well lit, especially so that people at night feel safe because it's a lit up place with lots of seating near the entrance to the store. Do the daily maintenance and make sure your machines are not broken for very long. If they're broken, get them fixed right away. The store needs to be lit up and you need to put up very few but very simple and clear signs on how the machine and how the service works. In large cities where you have dense populations, parking is not as important as the provincial areas where you have smaller populations. So obviously you want to know your market. To get back to the example, if you open in a smaller provincial area, make sure you have a lot of parking so that you can serve customers that come from other small towns in the area, a large radius. Again, in the larger cities, it can be very important to be along bus lines, to be where you have the population that can, even if you have large high-rise buildings, can come by foot or can easily access the store. That said, if you have parking even in the urban center, all the better. We have seen in the last 10 years in Italy and now in Spain, people often would rather drive 5 kilometers than walk 50 meters. Therefore, again, you want to try to keep your store visible, large door class, well lit up space. Good quality machines that are visible from the exterior. Some of the best publicity is people passing and seeing the large washers and the large tumblers. You need to communicate to people, convince them that it is worth their while to come to you and not only do their laundry at home. Therefore, it's the principle of putting your best foot forward. I think that from what I've seen, I don't know the area well, but I know that Italy and Spain, there are a lot of Romanian people that work there. A lot of our customers are Romanian. The ones I've spoken to are very enthusiastic about the potential market here in Romania. I believe it's just a question of starting, being a new thing. It's just a question of somebody taking the initiative to start and to run the business correctly with passion. We get the highest intakes in the winter and at what they call cambia stagione, when you have the change of the seasons between the spring and the summer. In the winter, we get a lot of business due to the tumblers. We do a lot less work in the month of August, late July and August, because a lot of people go on holiday, a lot of people go on vacation. So we do, yes, less business. These businesses, built in a little bit different manner, can also be very successful in holiday vacation areas, seasides, mountain resorts. In those areas, we often stay open from 6 in the morning until 2 the next morning, all day long. We generally put in more smaller machines because you have people that need to do their personal items, their personal load of laundry. Now that leads, I don't know the situation in Romania, but we do a lot of business with the small machines. In addition to with students, with military people that are away from home, that wash their own private things. That's not in Romania, huh? Again, when I first started out, I was convinced that you needed a population of a market of at least 20,000 people for a successful store. However, fortunately, I've been proven wrong. Now we know and have proof that you can do very, very good business with as little as 3, 4, 5,000 person market. In conclusion, I I believe this is one of the best businesses that exists. Again, it requires low startup capital. You have low fixed and variable costs. The customer provides most of the labor. Okay, it's very flexible. It can be open from the morning, early in the morning until late at night. You have cash coming every day. And your main costs you pay generally a month later after having taken your intake. Well, I want to thank everyone. You've been an excellent audience. Just by coming alone and taking the interest already shows a large step forward. We realize, myself, Bilancia, realizes how busy everyone is. And I hope that we have given an adequate explanation as to how this business works. And more than anything, I hope that the audience goes away with a clear idea that this is a business that can earn them money and provide a satisfying quality of life.